YouTube, what is good? So this week we're gonna do it a little bit different. I'm gonna take you, yes you, through a little retouch I did from an image we've shot in Ibiza during our event. So we've got Svenja and Yvonne combined together, and you will see one is pretty pale, the other one has a little bit of a tan. So how to mix them together and how to retouch them. So yeah, let's jump straight into it. So we're gonna retouch this image, which has been shot in Ibiza during our last event. So we got Yvonne and we got Svenja. So this is shot with the 2470 at 2.8, as you can see on the screen, and ISO 100. So this is capture one you see now, and I'm gonna export this one into Photoshop. But first we're gonna have a look at some of the settings. This is a little bit more yellow, and then in regards of exposure, Svenja is a bit bright, so I'm gonna lower the brightness a bit, lower the contrast, because you want to start with an image which has not a lot of contrast in it. And then lift up the shadows a little bit, not too much, to have a little bit more detail in the blacks. And then on top of that, I'm gonna create an extra layer, paint a little bit on Svenja, like so. And then I'm just gonna make her a little bit, not too much, but just a little bit darker. So yeah, that's our starting point. And from here, we're gonna export this into Photoshop. So if we see what we're gonna export a PSD 16-bit, 100% scale, and open it with Photoshop. So when we process this, it takes a little bit of time, of course. But when we process this, just gonna give it a go. There we go. So this is my screen in Photoshop. I'm gonna put it on full screen. And now I'm gonna duplicate this layer. And I'm gonna start by just cleaning up skin. So I got the normal healing brush. And what I'm gonna do is just clean up a little bit of skin blemishes. Nothing too crazy, but just make sure that you retain enough detail and you watch out for edges, because edges, they create some smudges, and we don't want any smudges. So when we clean things up like that, this is typical something that happens with Photoshop. It will go away once we merge everything again. So just cleaning up skin tones, not skin tones, but skin texture. And all the things that are in the picture that's not necessarily needed, or how do we say it? We remove everything that is not permanent on a model's face. So like freckles we leave. If the model wants it and she has scars, we leave them. Dependent on what the client wants, that's the idea. Now, because this is an image I shot, I'm the client, so I can decide what I want to remove and what I want to keep. So just cleaning up some of those things. I'm not gonna explain everything too much because yeah, we got tutorials for that, but it's just to show you what you can. And there we go. One hair totally gone. Is it an issue the vein? No, it's not, but it just distracts the viewer from the image, so I just remove it. Now this little rock, it bugs me. So I'm just gonna paint over it a bit. There we go. Then I'm gonna shift my attention to this side. And just cleaning up some of these lines. Nothing too crazy, we want to keep it natural. But just so that everything looks really nice and smooth. Smooth, but not like Barbie smooth. That's just a quick note. Let's zoom out again. Let's see. So I'm just gonna do the armpit a little bit more. Some discoloration over there. Oh, doing something wrong. Undo. Control Command Z. And that's the basic step I do for retouching and controlling the skin. Or let's say doing the basic cleanup. So nothing too crazy, but yeah, it makes a difference in the end result, you will see. The next step will be dodging and burning. So I created an action, a custom action for myself. So I've got a normal dodge layer, a normal burn layer, and then some layers which are from Retouching Academy, an action. So it adjusts the availability. So we create some more contrast in the image to see what we need to dodge and burn. There we go. And then we just start dodging and burning with a soft brush. And we just clean up the shadow parts. Not the shadow parts, but like the areas which don't have a nice transition in them. Now I see nothing happening because I'm painting with black. So when I change this to white, yeah, now we see something changing. And this is just a matter of doing it a lot to see what's actually changing in an image. If you do it often enough, you start to see different shades of black and white, and then you can like, yeah, clean it up. That's nothing more. There's nothing else we're doing now. So just painting on those little shadow parts, like on this part, you see it's a little bit too bright, so we take the burn and then we just paint ever so slightly over it, but this is too much, so we undo it. We just do it a little bit softer. There we go. So yeah, don't hear me talking a lot because this is just like, yeah, painting and making sure that the skin tones are softened out a lot more. Now with Svenja, she has freckles, so that's pretty easy and pretty hard in the same way, because you have the tendency to correct the freckles, which are not like imperfections but freckles. So just try to make sure that you don't delete those, not delete but remove those. There we go. And then we move onto the body, because yeah, most of the people, they just do the body, but they forget that a model also has skin on the rest of her body. So everything needs to be retouched really nice, so that in the end you got an image which tries to be perfect. Like now I see this little mark, this I can remove, but this I'm gonna go just to the other layer and just do like with the clone stamp tool. There we go. You don't want to entirely remove it, just make sure that the blacks have the same amount of grayness in them. And I know this is boring to watch, but in the end it's also worth it to do. And don't be afraid to use a bigger brush, because yeah, something funky is going on over here. There we go. Let's see what this says before and after. Let's disable the black and white layer. There we go. You can see just doing this for a few minutes, it creates an entirely different image. So now that this step is done, dodging and burning, let's call this cleanup. We're gonna try and play around with some colors. So what I like in these images, I want to make them a little bit more yellowish. So what I'm gonna do is use gradient map from orange to another orange. Then lower this quite a lot. Then selective colors. And in here we can play around with the colors separately. Yeah, that's the one I like. Then we're gonna do the yellows. There we go. But now you see that we have too much contrast in them. Why is that? Because this one is set to overlay. So if I change it to color, it's a lot less. Nothing too crazy. And then we want the blacks to stay black, but I'm gonna just put a little bit of blue in them. Nothing too crazy. There we go. And now I'm gonna group these, not just that one, but group these and call them toning. And I'm gonna put a contrast layer on top of it, but just use the blend mode luminosity to make sure that just the contrast is attached and not the colors. So there we go. That's just the basic things with it now. And then when the basic things are done, we can move on to, perhaps we can try to do something in the lab, color space. Let's merge everything together and duplicate this layer to a new document. Convert this to an LAB. Then use a curves, and then we can play around with the colors. There we go. Yeah, not so sure about that. It's a little bit too purplish now. Yeah, that's better. There's a little bit more green in it. So let's merge everything together. Drag this one. Oh, it will not work like that. Drag this one to the other screen. Close this one. No. Yeah, it creates a little bit more greenish in them. This was to create some contrast in the shot. We can still use that. And then we can still try to create a little bit more highlights on the image. But that's a try, because most of the time let's see if we switch it on and off. Let's lower it to 50 and see if we can create some more lights in the eyes. Tiny bit more. And then play around with the whites. If we have white, yeah, we have whites in the hair. There we go. And now I'm gonna do a solid color in the bluish. Change the blend mode to color dodge. Lower the opacity and then use the blend if option. You see that you create, because you're importing more blue into the oranges, you create white again. But this is way too much, so I'm gonna go to image, apply image, have it create a layer from the brightness in the image, but this is too much, so I'm gonna adjust the layer mask. There we go. And then lower the opacity to like 12ish. Let's see if we switch it on and off. Yeah, it gives a little bit more depth in the hair on this side and on Svenja. So let's see. Now I'm just gonna pump it a little bit more with liquify to make sure that all the curves are really nice. Let's see, that's still recording. So then we just go into liquify. We start just like changing little things, nothing too crazy. Just gonna try to create a little bit more volume in the hair without making it look too funky. There we go, and I think that will be and that's nothing too crazy. And then when we change, Let's see if we can create some sort of vignetting into it. Yeah, this takes a bit of computer brain. Feather it out a bit. More than just a bit, apparently. And then if we do the same, but we invert the layer mask and make everything a bit brighter. There we go, back again. Still not sure about the hair of Yvonne and Svenja. Let's see if we can fix that. Yeah, there we go. Better. Yeah, better. This is the final image for me, which I totally love. It has some nice lines in them and they work nicely together. So yeah, that's it for this little retouch. What I'm gonna do now is sharpen it for output and that all those things. But yeah, so you have an idea how I retouch this little image. Nothing too crazy, nothing too fancy. Thanks again for watching, keeping here during the time I recorded this. So yeah, that's it for this week. And then I'll see you guys and girls somewhere next time in the future. Thanks again. Bye-bye.